I want to begin today with something I believe deeply. If you have lived more than 60 years in this world, you are not lacking discipline. You are not lacking intelligence or wisdom or the ability to manage your own home. You have lived through difficult things, raised families, built careers, navigated everything life has offered and not offered you. You know how to survive. You know how to keep going. And many of the habits that got you through the hard times, the keeping of things just in case, the holding on to what was hard won, were not wrong habits. They were the right habits for the life you were living then. This video is not here to tell you that you have been living the wrong way. It is not here to tell you to empty your home or let go of your history or become someone you are not. Think of it instead as a quiet conversation between us, one 70-year-old to another, about a question worth asking yourself gently and honestly. Is there anything in this home that is making your life today harder than it needs to be? Not because you are weaker than you used to be, not because you are incapable, simply because life has changed, and some things that once belonged completely to your life may no longer be carrying their weight. These 8 categories of things are not junk. They're often things that were genuinely valuable and genuinely meaningful. But they have quietly and without anyone noticing become a quiet drain on the energy, the space, and the peace of the home. I share them not to pressure, but to offer a gentle lens. Look through it and keep only what truly fits. The first thing, spaces in your home that you no longer use or move through freely. After 70, it is natural for the geography of daily life to become smaller. The rooms and corners and storage areas that made sense when the house was full of other people's activity can become gradually and almost invisibly areas that exist only to hold things and to be cleaned around, and to require your attention without giving anything back. Perhaps there's a spare bedroom that is now a storage room, full of things belonging to people who moved out years ago and never retrieved them. Perhaps there's a hallway where navigating around accumulated things requires a small negotiation every time you pass through. Perhaps there's a garage or a shed or a basement that you have not entered properly in months, and which sits at the back of your awareness as something that will eventually need to be dealt with. The invisible cost of these spaces is not immediately obvious, which is why they so often go unaddressed for years. They make the home harder to move through, and therefore slightly less safe. They make the home harder to clean because they are full of surfaces and objects requiring attention. And they carry a quiet mental weight, the awareness of something unresolved, something that needs attention, something that is waiting. You do not have to clear these spaces entirely. You do not have to make dramatic decisions. You only have to ask, could this space be even 10% more functional and easier to move through? Often one afternoon, one cleared pathway, one decision about one corner is enough to shift what has been stuck for years. Tell me in the comments, is there one area of your home that you have been moving around rather than through? A corner, a room, a hallway? You do not have to share what is in it. Just tell me it is there. Naming it is always the first step. The second thing, objects kept to prove who you used to be rather than to support who you are now. This is one of the most tender categories, and I want to be careful with it, because the objects in this category are not trivial. They are things connected to identity, the professional tools from a career that ended, the formal wardrobe from years of work that no longer match the rhythm of retired life, the collections built around an interest that is genuinely past, the equipment from a physical activity your body has moved on from. Keeping a few meaningful representatives of who you were is not the same as filling rooms with the full apparatus of a life chapter that is already completed. You have more than one chapter. You are in a new one. And the home you live in now serves you best when it reflects the life you are actually living today, rather than functioning as a museum of the lives you have already lived. The invisible cost of too many identity objects from the past is subtle but real. They can pull your attention backward into who you were, rather than letting you be fully present in who you are. They can create a quality of incompleteness, as though the current chapter of life is somehow less legitimate, because it does not require the same things the previous ones did. You do not need to erase your past. You have the absolute right to keep what genuinely brings you joy or pride or warmth. But you also have the right to ask, honestly, whether what you are keeping is something you love or something you are holding because releasing it would feel like admitting something you are not yet ready to admit. Before I continue, a quick word. If you enjoy this channel and want to support my work, just look directly below the video player, right next to the subscribe button, and click the button that says join. That is how you become a Smart Organizer. Smart Organizers members get exclusive videos, a loyalty badge in the comments, and custom channel emojis. I would love to have you there. The third thing, items that make you apologize to yourself every single day. Every home has them. Objects that catch your eye each time you pass and produce a small, familiar pang of guilt or incompleteness. The chair that has needed reupholstering for 3 years. The exercise equipment that you intended to use and did not. The project half finished on the shelf. The appliance that needs a part replaced. The pile of things that you keep meaning to sort through. Each individual item in this category is small. The guilt it produces lasts perhaps a second. But seconds repeated across every day, every week, every year, accumulate into a genuine and continuous low-level drain on mental energy. The home becomes a space that speaks to you in a language of unfinished business, and the cumulative effect is a quality of tiredness that is hard to identify, but very real. You have the right to simply decide that you are done apologizing to yourself for things you have not done. Not by finishing every unfinished thing, but by choosing which ones you actually intend to finish and releasing the rest without guilt. An item that exists only to make you feel behind on something is not an asset. It is a tax. You are allowed to stop paying it. Tell me in the comments, is there one object in your home that produces that small, familiar pang every time you see it? You do not have to tell me what it is or why it is there. Just acknowledge it exists. That acknowledgement alone sometimes changes something. The fourth thing, anything that makes simple daily tasks feel harder than they should. There is a kind of tiredness that is not physical and not emotional, but environmental. It comes from a home where everything requires a little more effort than it should. The wardrobe so full that finding what you want takes time and produces frustration. The kitchen counter so covered that cooking requires moving things before starting. The bathroom so crowded with products that simply getting to what you need is a small obstacle course. This tiredness is cumulative and quiet. It does not announce itself dramatically. It simply makes the ordinary tasks of daily life feel slightly heavier than they need to, day after day, until you find yourself avoiding those tasks or approaching them with a low-level dread that was not there before. The good news is that this kind of tiredness has a straightforward remedy, and the remedy is not effort, it is reduction. One less drawer full, one kitchen surface cleared of everything that does not belong there. One section of the wardrobe address, so that getting dressed requires no excavation. These small reductions have an effect on daily energy and daily mood that is genuinely disproportionate to the size of the change. I have experienced this personally and consistently. A cleared kitchen counter changes how the kitchen feels to be in. A wardrobe you can see clearly changes how getting dressed feels in the morning. Small spaces genuinely matter. Please subscribe if you are not yet subscribed. Every week I share this kind of honest, practical guidance about creating and maintaining a home that supports your well-being at every stage of this life. The fifth thing, objects you are keeping only because you do not know where they should go. This is one of the most honest and universal reasons for holding on to things that no longer serve us. Not sentiment, not denial, simply the practical difficulty of deciding what to do with something. The good plates that are too nice to throw away but that nobody wants. The furniture piece that is perfectly functional but does not fit any room properly. The collections accumulated over decades that are valuable in some sense but difficult to distribute. The invisible cost of these things is that they stay and continue to occupy space and thought and energy indefinitely, because indefinitely is what happens when there is no clear answer to where they should go. The decision gets deferred, and the object sits in the home as a small, unresolved question for years. The most useful reframe I have found for this category is this: a good enough destination is always better than an indefinite stay. The charity shop that will pass something along to someone who will genuinely use it. The neighbor who has the right kind of space for that piece of furniture. The grandchild who might actually want those plates. Good enough, acted on, is infinitely better than perfect, never acted on. Tell me in the comments, is there one object in your home that has been waiting for the right destination for longer than a year? I am genuinely curious how common this experience is, because in my own decluttering conversations with other women, it comes up almost every single time. The sixth thing, too many sentimental objects competing for the same emotional space. Memory is precious. Objects that carry memory have genuine value. And I am not suggesting for a moment that the things connected to the people and the moments that have mattered most in your life should be treated carelessly. What I am suggesting is a distinction between keeping what carries genuine meaning and keeping everything because you cannot bear to choose. When every surface in the home holds something sentimental, the effect is paradoxically one of diminishment rather than honor. When everything is equally important, nothing is particularly important. The photograph that makes your heart move when you look at it gets lost among 40 other photographs. The object that truly carries a person's presence to you sits in a cupboard because there is no space to give it a place of genuine visibility. A small, carefully chosen collection of what matters most, displayed or stored with real care, honors memory more genuinely than rooms full of everything. It allows the things that truly carry meaning to be seen, to be felt, to do their actual work of connecting you to the people and the moments they represent. You do not need to let go of anything before you are ready, but you have the right to ask, which of these things genuinely moves me when I hold it? Which ones am I keeping not because they do anything for me, but because the decision is too difficult to make? The seventh thing, physical clutter that creates actual safety risks. This one is different from the others in that it is not primarily emotional or energetic, but practical and serious. And I want to name it directly. Falls are one of the most significant health risks for people in their 70s and beyond. And the arrangement of our homes has a direct impact on that risk. Objects on the floor that narrow pathways, rugs without non-slip backings, furniture arranged so that moving between rooms requires careful navigation, surfaces so full that the one thing you need requires reaching or stretching or shifting other things to access. I am not saying this to create anxiety or to suggest that your home is unsafe. I am saying it because the connection between clutter and safety is real and worth taking seriously, and because the changes required to address it are often quite small. A cleared pathway, a rug secured, a frequently used item moved to a more accessible location, an area where you have been stepping around something for months finally addressed. Your home should support you moving through it freely and safely. If there are areas where it is not currently doing that, those are the areas where the return on a small amount of decluttering effort is the highest. Not for aesthetic reasons, but for practical ones. The eighth and final thing, the general weight of too much when less would genuinely serve you better. This last category is not a specific type of object. It is a quality of the whole, a recognition that the cumulative weight of too many things in a home is itself a drain on energy, peace, and well-being, and that reducing that weight, even modestly, changes how the home feels to live in. This is not about minimalism or creating a spare, empty aesthetic. It is about finding the point at which your home contains what you genuinely use, what you genuinely love, and what genuinely serves the life you are actually living, and releasing what is accumulated beyond that point. A home that contains the right amount for your life today is a home that is easier to clean, easier to move through, easier to maintain, and more genuinely peaceful to inhabit. It does not require continuous management to stay at a reasonable level of order. It does not produce the low-level exhaustion that comes from living in a space that demands more from you than it gives back. One corner, one drawer, one small area where you can begin to ask whether what is there still belongs there. That is enough to start. Progress measured in 15-minute sessions one area at a time, is the only kind of progress that actually holds and that does not require more energy than you have. I want to hear from you now. In the comments, tell me which of these 8 categories feels most relevant to where you are in your home right now. Not the most dramatic, the one that is most honestly yours, the one that you recognized while I was describing it. That small internal nod of yes, that is the one. Tell me. I read every comment, and these conversations genuinely matter to me. And please subscribe if you are not yet subscribed. Every week I share honest, careful, respectful conversations about living in a home that truly supports you at this stage of life. Not perfection, not pressure, just real guidance shared with care. I will see you next week.